Former NFL star doesn't hold back on Shedeur Sanders, Ravens rumor. Even though Shedeur Sanders hasn't played a single snap through the first 2 weeks of the 2025 season, he manages to dominate the headlines. The Cleveland Browns selected Sanders with the 144th pick in the draft. The Colorado product had an inconsistent preseason, completing 58.6% of his passes in the preseason for 152 yards with 2 touchdowns. He ultimately lost the backup quarterback job to Dillon Gabriel, who completed 67.6% of his preseason pass attempts for 272 yards with 1 touchdown and an interception. Prior to Cleveland's Week 2 game this past Sunday, ESPN insider Adam Schefter revealed that Sanders received interest from the Baltimore Ravens during the draft. They actually wanted to select him with the number 141 overall pick, but he didn't want to sit behind Lamar Jackson. Sanders knew that Jackson, a 2-time MVP and one of the top players in the league, was not going to be losing his job as Baltimore's starting quarterback anytime soon, Schefter said. So, the message was conveyed to the Ravens that Sanders did want to be drafted by Baltimore and preferred to end up in a place where he might have a better chance to play sooner. The Ravens instead drafted offensive lineman Carson Vinson with the 141st pick. Did Shedeur make a mistake? On Tuesday's episode of First Take, former Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton offered his thoughts on this report. He thinks Sanders would have been in a much better situation in Baltimore. If I'm Shedeur, you would ideally want to learn behind a guy like Lamar Jackson for this particular reason and this particular reason only. Not a lot of players can really cope with your star power, with your stardom, right? And let's really give credit where credit is due. At 28 years old, being a phenomenal athlete, the thing that I respect a guy like Lamar Jackson the most, we've never heard him have any off-the-field issues, Newton said. He's been a stand-up guy, and all of our opinions have always led to his on-field performance. Not a lot of people can relate to what Shedeur Sanders has been through in his whole life, and that right there serves even more to make him a better player, because it's the totality of the position. And I think Lamar Jackson would have been able to relate to him in many ways. It's hard to argue against Newton. As of right now, it seems like Sanders is buried on the depth chart for a team that could be in the market for a new coach and general manager in 2026. If that's the case, his roster spot could be in jeopardy. This story was originally reported by The Spun on September 17, 2025, where it first appeared in the NFL section. Add The Spun as a preferred source by clicking here. The NFL is built on headlines, drama, and the constant hum of speculation. Every week, a new storyline grips the league and divides fans into heated debates. But few stories have hit as hard or stirred as much curiosity as the swirling rumors linking Shedeur Sanders to the Baltimore Ravens, and the explosive reaction it drew from a former NFL star who decided not to mince words. When whispers first emerged that the Ravens had quietly courted Sanders before the draft, the narrative seemed simple. Baltimore saw something in Deion Sanders' son that reminded them of their own franchise quarterback, Lamar Jackson. A younger version of the dual-threat phenom, maybe with even greater polish as a passer, could ensure long-term stability for the Ravens. But then came the twist. Reports surfaced that Sanders himself had shut the door, uninterested in a backup role behind Lamar. To some, it was a savvy business decision. To others, it looked like arrogance from a rookie who hadn't even played a snap in the NFL. And that's when a former NFL star stepped into the spotlight. This ex-pro, known for his candor and unfiltered takes, didn't hold back when asked about the Sanders-Ravens situation during a radio appearance. "Look," he said, his voice echoing with the weight of someone who had been in those locker rooms, "Shedeur Sanders hasn't proven a thing at this level yet. You don't get to dictate terms before you've even taken a professional snap. The Ravens are a championship-caliber organization, and if they wanted him, that should have been the honor of a lifetime. Instead, he treated it like he was too good to sit behind Lamar. That's a rookie mistake." The comment struck a nerve. Fans immediately split into factions. Some applauded the honesty. After all, plenty of promising quarterbacks had come into the league only to flame out because of ego. Others defended Sanders, arguing that he wasn't dodging competition. He was simply positioning himself for success. A rookie under the microscope. Shedeur Sanders had already been under one of the brightest spotlights in football thanks to his father. Deion "Primetime" Sanders wasn't just an NFL Hall of Famer. He was a cultural icon who redefined what swagger in sports looked like. Now, his son had stepped onto the NFL stage with expectations that could crush a lesser player. So when the Ravens rumor gained steam, it felt like gasoline on an already raging fire. Why would a rookie quarterback, barely weeks into his professional career, turn away from one of the league's most stable franchises? Was it fear of being overshadowed by Lamar Jackson, or was it a calculated move to carve his own lane? The former NFL star had an answer: you want to lead a team, you've got to earn it. Sitting behind Lamar for a year or two would have been the perfect crash course. If Shedeur thinks he's ready to skip steps, the league will humble him real fast. The words were sharp, but in many ways, they echoed the tough love culture of the NFL. Young quarterbacks are expected to take their lumps. From Steve McNair sitting behind Chris Chandler to Aaron Rodgers watching Brett Favre, history is littered with examples of future legends who learn from the bench before taking the reins. But Sanders didn't see himself as a clipboard holder. He wanted the keys to a franchise immediately. The Ravens' perspective. From Baltimore's side, the rumor was never confirmed, but the logic made sense. Lamar Jackson, while still in his prime, had battled injuries in recent seasons. Insurance at quarterback was no longer a luxury, it was a necessity. Drafting Sanders could have given them a smooth succession plan, or at least a formidable backup. Yet the optics of Sanders rejecting the Ravens painted him as a player with little interest in being second in command. The former NFL star called it short-sighted. "Every great player in this league has had to prove themselves," he said. "You don't just inherit greatness because of your last name." The Ravens gave him a chance, and he acted like it wasn't enough. That's not how this league works. Fans weigh in. Social media lit up in response. Some fans, particularly Ravens loyalists, echoed the veteran's critique. Who is Shedeur to say no to Baltimore? Lamar is an MVP, and you'd rather go to Cleveland? Good luck with that, one fan posted. Others, especially supporters of Deion Sanders' Colorado program, fired back. Shedeur isn't running from competition. He just doesn't want to waste time being a backup when he's got the talent to start now. That's confidence, not arrogance. It was a generational debate in many ways. Old-school players demanding humility and patience, while a new wave of athletes embraced brand building and self-determination. The bigger picture. The former NFL star's fiery remarks may have sounded like an attack.